Hey good people, mi naitwa Wabs na ndako na take you through some of the happenings of the day na venye vitu tu zina unfold, then tuone ni aje. Leo Sifuna amekuwa kwa Fix the Nation in Nation FM na kuna vitu mingi zenye nimecheki ameaddress pale hivi. In my view, mimi naona Edwin Sifuna ni kama anani represent ama ana represent my youth man, mavijana wengi na feel ni kama Edwin Sifuna na move na voice yao, na I think it's high time the elderly in the society, maybe the Uburus and the teams and the rest, they come now to terms that enyewe huu boy kuna vile huu boy So nataka tuende tu through some of these things that has happened and tutakuwa tunachambua tu pole pole.
But today's quote is coming from someone who was the former president of the African Development Bank. His name is Akinwumi Adesina. And he said, if young people are not included in economic growth, they will reject the system entirely.
A very important point. That banker mentioned a very, very important thing. That if young people are not included into the entire conversation, then they are more likely to reject the entire thing. Is exactly what is happening. That's exactly what happened to the Gen Zs. That the Gen Zs and the millennials need or must be part of the conversation. And I think before Baba left, there was that national intergenerational conclave that probably could have brought all these particular parties together.
Yeah, I have had the pleasure of meeting him when he was still at in the office. I remember he came to the LSK annual conference last year, and he was a keynote speaker there. And what he says is actual fact, that nobody will accept a system that doesn't include them. We can't just be there to be your cheerleaders. You do your thing, and we are just observers on the side, because it is acknowledged that we all have a stake in this country. And in fact, the younger you are, and the people with the greatest stake are the ones who own the future. And those of us who have eaten salt, as they say, should also try and find a way to include the younger generations in every conversation, and especially the economic conversation. Yeah, I've been amazed by the outpouring of support from Kenyans of all walks of life. And I take this opportunity to thank them, that it gives great comfort to know that you are not alone. And it gives me great comfort to know that even if something were to happen to me, somehow they were able to tame my tongue or, derail me. There are other Sifunas out there. It cannot be about an individual. In fact, I have always argued, Latif, and these are conversations we've had with you, that this country is going to change not because of one individual, but building critical mass. You have to have people across the country who believe that things need to be done differently. You see, the problem with one of the problems with democracy is that you have a limited time in office. You have, if God grants you the graces, you have a maximum of 10 years. You do 2 terms and you have to leave. And the unfortunate thing about that is that if you don't have critical mass of people who believe and think in the same philosophy, you will have one stellar president. For instance, when we had Kibaki and the economy was doing great, and then the next time you elect people who believe in a totally different philosophy.
Actually, what I'm capturing here from what he's actually saying is that the Sisi ni Sifuna movement seem not to be Sisi na Sifuna per se. This thing seems to be an ideology around, and he goes ahead to mention that even if himself he might not be there, the Sisi na Sifuna movement will go and continue because Sisi ni Sifuna seems like it is an ideology that even if they found a way to mime his voice and eventually he is unable to speak anymore or even kill him, God forbid, then Sifunas will still emerge. And the Sifunas is not the Sifuna. The Sifuna is the ideology behind.
And then you find the country stagnating. So across the entire country, I want to encourage young people to participate in politics, to show up, to offer themselves for office, from MCA positions to the Senate positions to the members of Parliament, all these positions. Nobody should threaten you that it takes rocket science.
I think he fallen short of mentioning that it's not only young people actually who are supposed to just make an appearance. I'm not maybe so competent to correct Sifuna, to whom we hold to very high esteem, but maybe we can just be able to bring out certain things that we seem like are going wrong. He fallen short of saying that we need young people of integrity. We have young people as well who might might still be angry for power. We have young people to whom might be having a lot of appetite to the extent that they easily can be compromised. So it is not necessary that if you said that young people are supposed to appear for office, then it shall we as the young people are going to have solutions just because there's a young person there. I don't think actually that is he fallen short of mentioning that, and that was very, very important in that interview.
They're telling us we don't have money, we don't have whatever it is, but it's a different time, I believe, Eric. And I think what Kenyans are looking for is the message and the vision that this country can actually be different. When you read all these stories, and including the ones that you've just read this morning, it is quite depressing, and you can feel the yearning in the country for a different way of doing things. And it's not that people don't want, for instance, development. But when you read about a stadium being built, you know, anybody can build a stadium. Moi is the one who built us Kasarani. But if you ask a majority of Kenyans, they don't want to go back to the life under Moi. You know, this Talanta Stadium is being built. I mean, nobody can deny that there is a stadium there. It is a fantastic facility. But can it be built in accordance with the constitution and in accordance with the law? That is what Kenyans are yearning for. So I have felt the love, I have felt the support, but I really pray that they don't make this thing about Sifuna, because one of the things I keep reminding people is that we are deeply flawed human beings. We are not perfect. I mean, we are not perfect. In fact, one of the women in my mother's Kikundi, you know that Kikundi for Catholics, St. Anthony's, that meet on Sunday. She called me and she said she was very disappointed in some of my utterances in Kakamega after the tear gas was fired. But you know, tear gas has a way of inamusha my son, hiyo maneno nakwambia, unajua ukipigwa tear gas haujuangi hata saa ile machozi natoka, makamasi natoka, mambo ingine, you might shout one profanity or another. But we want
these things not supposed to be about Sifuna. It is worth noting that this person is trying to talk the young people out of idolizing leaders. And I think the country has suffered so much because of this politics of kingpins, and where we see a leader to the extent of even imagining that a leader might be immortal. And we could see that with the way we held Baba to very, very high esteem. And I believe there are people actually who believe in William Samoei Ruto and maybe still continue to hold them to that very, very high esteem. If each and every leader could come out and detach themselves and show that it is not me, it is about you, then I think the country will be heading towards the right direction.
Even with our shortcomings, I think we are focused and we are determined to be able to deliver a different Kenya than the one that we have.
So you're saying let them not make it about Sifuna?
No, it can't be.
So when you hear people saying Sisi ndio Sifuna, what's your interpretation of that?
I think they're identifying with a message. They're identifying with some of my trials and tribulations. You know what has been happening in the party. And I hope for the sake of the country, they agree that things can be done differently from the way that they're doing it. But I have been overwhelmed. I'm telling you, Latif, even from the support from some of my colleagues in the party, in the National Assembly, in the Senate, the people showing up to our meetings, because Baba used to tell us that the people are a leader's safety. For as long as where you are, the people are, then you are in the right place. And let the people themselves be the ones to guide you on what you need to do. So I just say thanks. I will try my best, and the entire Linda Mwananchi team, not to let anybody down, to remain focused, to be able to put in place a proper message for the country and paint a picture. Because one of the things that we appreciate as leadership is that we have a responsibility to also explain ourselves, explain our actions, explain our vision. We can't just be saying things. We need to show up for Kenyans, you know. Yesterday there was a young lady I saw on this show that I actually met her on TikTok.
Abby.
Yes, and she's been fantastic, and she said a few things here. One of the conversations we've had with them is that all of us who are saying Ruto must go must be available to go him. You must be when the going you must be ready to go him.
Yep.
So all of us must answer the call because we can hear it across the country that people are yearning for a different leadership in the country.
What actually impresses me there, it seems like all these things that we're seeing on the social media are also getting to Sifuna. That the entire country seems like we are all motivated and charged towards his presidency, and maybe the electorate today would want nothing short of Sifuna attempt at the ballot. And for him to mention that you should be available to outgo him, then I think Sifuna is directly speaking that he will be coming to accept nomination for presidency of this great country, hopefully.
Are you giving these young people momentum, or are they giving you momentum?
They are giving me momentum. They are giving me energy. I mean, if I tell you the story of Kakamega, I mean, one of these fine days, I think
Sifuna is giving us momentum. He might be saying that we are the ones giving him momentum, but a lot of us had lost hope. A lot of the young people, more especially the ones who are employed, people had gotten to a point whereby we end up saying that if you want to deduct, in fact, there is a say that a lot of people actually who are employed nowadays say that you can take the salary and give us the tax, because it seems like the tax and the salary, they seem to be rivaling each other, and each and every day there is more and more that are coming to deduct from your account. So people have already even thrown down the towel. So this just is just kind of an awakening that actually people are getting into now, and are feeling some form of being rejuvenated to participate again. So Sifuna is motivating the young people, and that is actually what we are getting from the streets.
I think some of us need to write books. It is just ridiculous. We shouldn't live in a country like this. So if it wasn't for those young people, we wouldn't even have shown up in Kakamega, because the machinations of the state were to ensure that the meeting does not happen. We were booked on commercial flights from JKIA. Somehow the airlines, which I will not mention because they'll start crying, they leaked our itinerary to operatives in the Interior Ministry. So those guys know Sifuna is landing at X time. They know Babu is on this flight, is landing at X time, and they mobilize goons to come and make sure that we don't leave the airport, you know. So at night, the good thing is that I have been at this job called Secretary General for so long that I know almost all of these people.
Right.
So they are the ones calling me, you know. I
The
didn't
goons,
even,
you know.
Yes, they are our boys. You know, we have done a lot of things together. In fact, I didn't even I had forgotten that I had built a shed somewhere in Kisumu. They are the ones who asked me. I don't know which year that was. I said, oh, Sifuna, you know, Juena to pick up. I think it must be like 4 years ago. I only remembered when I saw clips that they were destroying that thing, which
shed.
is okay. I understand. They are the same ones who tell us, oh, by the way, we've been told to go to the airport tomorrow to make sure you guys don't leave Kakamega. So in the middle of the night, man, we are making frantic calls here and there to some of these air charter providers just to get us to Kakamega. And in the morning, we are sneaking into the airport like we are thieves, or like we have done something wrong. Like we are fugitives in a country that is supposed to be free. To board an aircraft that we didn't want them to know, to land at an airstrip that we did not disclose. In fact, we were telling my colleagues, the ones who came on the flight, where we were landing, when they were on board, you know? So it is not supposed to be like that. So we land someplace, use some other back routes and get into Kakamega. And there were young people who had been mobilized. We shared even those clips with one of your producers here.
Yeah.
They can play them for the people.
Yeah.
And those young men, amazingly, they took the money, they fueled their borders, and then they removed those reflector jackets and burned them. And that is the only way we were able to get into Kakamega. 2023 demonstrations that we took part in 2024, despite us writing down an MOU and saying, oh, we need to sort out reparations, not only compensation for the loss of lives and injuries, but also to bring the officers who are responsible to account. And we told the family of Vincent that given that history, because it is now less than 2 weeks to the expiry of that MOU, none of those things have been done, and because it is clear William Ruto never had any intention to be able to do any of those things that he agreed with Raila. So you started by saying we need to keep hope alive in this country, and the hope that we want to give Kenyans is that things will not always be the same. In under 18 months, we have an opportunity to put in place an administration that is based on the values in the Constitution that will bring all these things to happen. So it is difficult for me to look Vincent's widow in the eye and tell him that this government will actually do something about killing her husband. It is not going to happen.
It's really not.
We cannot get accountability out of William Ruto's government.
It's not even the hope of accountability.
Yeah.
It's giving people something to work with, because
Absolutely.
you're absolutely right. This government won't always be in power. If there comes a time when there are people in power willing to fix injustices and
which is why,
the past,
Mariam,
then it's good to have like that trail.
Allow me to just segue into that question that came from one of the viewers there on the vision that we want to build for this country.
Okay.
And
but let me just finish my thread. My thread of thought. I was thinking through the same reason you lose your phone, for example, it gets stolen. You go, you write an OB. I don't think you ever write an OB with the hope that those police will bring back your phone. It is so that when that phone is used in a crime or some other thing, you can come and say, I lost it, OB number ndio hii, I reported it lost, and it's for posterity and for future accountability, not so much that anything will happen now, or that there's a hope that something will happen now.
Okay, for me, first of all, they have turned it around and accused us of being responsible for, I don't know, I saw a statement from the DCI saying we are arming our supporters, we are tear gassing ourselves. The entire Linda Mwananchi team is available for the police if there is any evidence. Any evidence that Sifuna or anybody else has been doing any of those things, we are available. We can be summoned. We can even be arrested.
And I think that's the part. That's the part where maybe that would make me now maybe believe Sifuna that even on the Kakamega issue, if we had federal agencies or the national agents, the kind of institutions that we are holding in our country as impartial, like we see that in developed countries, then it could have been difficult for us to maybe make some of the arguments we are making right now. But from the history of what we've learned is that they mostly lean justice towards the regime of the day. They believe that the regime of the day controls the instrument of violence, and therefore nobody actually can be able to challenge them. So if at all that's the kind of people that you are dealing with, of course, and being that that is the perception, then by Sifuna saying that me plus our leaders, we are available anytime, then actually that one puts the burden on the side of the accuser to now prove their case, because you're controlling the instrument of powers. The institutions that are supposed to be independent, they are no longer independent. They seem like they're serving the interests of the regime. The legislature that's supposed to be reasoning with an impartial mindset and making laws that be built in the basic interests of the common mwananchi are not doing that and serving in the interests of the executive. The judiciary that are supposed to be settling the disputes that arise from anywhere else is also still perceived to be leaning towards the executive. Then we have a big problem, and now we are supposed to believe Sifuna when he says that he has got nothing to do with that tear gas. And then now, even those questions that I was asking earlier, then for sure, maybe He doesn't have anything.
They have evidence. Let them show the evidence. We are prepared to face them in court. But I want to make this assurance here that you cannot go to the people who are, they do it, they accuse you of doing it, and then you expect me to go and report to them. Our hope is entirely on the people of Kenya to be able to appreciate that this country can actually be different, you know. And this is the reason why when people say, oh, we want to hear a clear agenda, I want the people to understand that we are not going to talk about shiny things, you know. We are not going to talk about stadiums. You know, previous politicians in campaigns have actually engaged people box using shiny things like laptops and Barabara and stadium. I remember those billboards of the 5 stadiums in Mombasa, in all these places.
I think at that point, I feel like my hopes kind of diminishes when I hear Honorable Sifuna says that he's not going to call a message, and because of the happenings of the past of politicians using certain message and eventually turning the other way. My view, I think, as a young person, is that we want to hear the message. We want, in fact, what is taking us to Sifuna himself is the message. Sifuna must call some message of hope. Some message of hope, like, yes, we can, that Obama did. There must be a message. Don't go the Singapore way of making promises that maybe does not exist. We want a message. And this one is not only for Sifuna. Any other person is presenting themselves for positions of leadership. What do you call your message? Let's see your portfolio.
I'm telling you, Mariam, anybody, any person can build a stadium. Moi builds stadiums. But what we are looking for is something higher. Kenya has what I describe as a software problem. And you have to go back to the preamble of the Constitution. This Constitution has a history. There was a life we used to live that then we said this has to stop. And going forward, this is the life that we want to live. And if you go back to the preamble of the Constitution, it tells you the aspirations of Kenyans, the kind of government that they wanted. And our message to the public.
Yes, the preamble of the Constitution tells us of the kind of the country that we want. But we want you to take that preamble, summarize it, make a message, then come talk to us about whatever you've read in the preamble. Sifuna, wacha mchezo.
Is that is the government we want to form. And if you read the preamble, it says, recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. Those 6 values are more important than stadiums. You understand? Because everything that we do, we're not saying we don't want development. Because any government, a democratic government, will still collect taxes. And they will still have a responsibility to build roads. But in what environment are they building? So if you see somebody telling you, this constitution requires, for instance, when you construct anything, or any expenditure of public money must be done in a transparent manner. So you have a choice between somebody building you a stadium, and then the Auditor General tells you the costs were varied, 11 billion, no explanation. There was no consultation of the Attorney General, that they refused to use open tender, which is the transparency that we're talking about. And we understand the exasperation of Kenyans, because Kenyans have been yearning for these things. There are those who will be tempted to say, sisi tunataka tu stadium ijengwe. It's okay. It's okay because of the history that we have. People are feeling, wacha tu barabara ijengwe hata kama mtu amekula 20%. At least kuna barabara. But we are telling them, even a Democrat can do that. I was giving the example of those young men who were beaten up for no reason while playing pool in Nandi Hills. So mtu amekuletea pesa ya Nyota Fund, uanzishe pool. Alafu umeanzisha pool. Usiku hujafanya makosa yote, polisi wanakuja wanakupiga. That is the value system that we want to fix. I want to tell Kenyans that we need to go back to the original idea of the sort of government that we wanted to be able to implement this. And there's a reason, you know, in constitutional and legal interpretation, when you have words following each other and there's a comma, the order of the words is not it's not a fluke. It's not happenstance. There's a reason why the first value there is human rights. There is a reason, you know. Then we go to equality and freedom. When you talk to many of these young people in this country, people want to live in a country that is free. It's free. I might not have something to eat, but I am not fearful that the police will knock down the door the next minute. I give people the example of us. You know, me, I was born and grew up entirely under the Kanu state until I became an adult capable of voting. I was born in 1982 when the Kanu state was now becoming the Kanu state. You would be sitting in the village under a tree with your father. And when you hear the sound of, they used to have Land Rovers and they bought Mahindras. I don't know if people remember Mahindras. I'm an old man. So this Mahindra had a very specific sound, distinct signature sound. Yeah. So your father akisikia yo Mahindra pale kwa mlima, anakimbia kwa miwa for no reason. Because those guys would pick you up and 6 months later, your family doesn't know where you are. And there's no explanation that is given because during the Kanu regime, detention without trial was actually law. So nobody wants to go back there. Moi built as a fantastic facility for the All Africa Games, I think it was in 1989. But under what circumstances were people living? So we grow up and we get to 2002, and it's the first time my generation who were born in 1982 have an opportunity to vote. You should have seen the enthusiasm with which we went to the polls because we want to be free. I don't know how I can explain it. Above everything else, I want to be free, to be able to wake up, to say whatever it is that I want because...
Yes, I understand what Sifuna is saying there. I've also ever been arrested someday and I understood the value of freedom. No? So, yes, freedom has the value. What we are only saying is that now coil that to be your message. That for me, as I'm presenting myself before you, I'm bringing back your freedom. Not because I think one time and as if we are talking about freedom, we are coming to free you from, then you coil it in a way that can actually translate to me as a young person. I don't think I'll be having a problem, but to mobilize a few or the most that I can for them to make the appearance at the ballot and vote you in. Because even myself, I need...
The Constitution guarantees me the freedom of speech. If I am going to jail because I tweeted and said, I don't like Latif's nose, that is not the freedom that we fought for. If I cannot assemble somewhere with people because I be tear gassed, that is not the country we want to live in. We want to be in a country where people are free to be able to express themselves. And then there is something called rule of law. You know, these things, they're not just, fanciful terms that we throw around. You visit countries, Eric, and they are Kenyans, my friend. People who have slaved away in European countries, in places like Seattle. I met Kenyans who are doing jobs that many Americans will not want to do. In these old elderly care homes. Yeah? And they tell you that after going through all that, doing all these menial jobs, you have saved up some money. Yeah? I want to buy a piece of land in Nairobi. But I don't know whether, once I have put all my entire life saving, after doing all these menial jobs, somebody will come and tell me, by the way, hii ploti kuna title mbili, ama ni ya mkubwa.
That is a very heavy point. And I think this actually speaks directly into the integrity of our systems. Because if I'm making all that sacrifice, try to imagine what this person is now talking about here. I've made all that sacrifice, a lifetime sacrifice. Okay, maybe I might not even have done such kind of jobs, or I might not even have traveled to Seattle, even locally. I take my entire life savings, or I take my my pension, eventually chooses to make an investment in a small parcel of land by the roadside. After I've consumed everything that I have in bringing up the structure, then maybe not even one person that comes to say that the land is theirs. The land that was sold to you and the municipality watched you build it, now they're coming to demolish it, that maybe it's along the road without any compensation. We need to reevaluate the integrity of our systems and the way everything actually is done. That in that particular case, I bought it legally. I have all the approvals for erecting a structure in that particular area, but for some reason, it comes to be established that this actually is along the road. How is that my mistake? The county government or the government, the national government, or whoever should compensate me and or help me identify land elsewhere and even help me build it. Because for sure, like really, what's that? No, you can't live in such kind of a country.
Title mbili ama ni ya mkubwa usikie hii ni ya senator wa Nairobi anakuambia utoke na anakuambia even if for instance the rule of law means if there is a dispute between me and you Latif and you go to court and you get a court order everybody including wakubwa will respect that court order. So somebody sitting there in Australia wondering hey maze I want to come home lakini which home am I coming to? We want a home that is governed by rule of law. That if an order is issued against Sifuna, it doesn't matter if he's the president, the order will be respected. No investor will come and invest in a country where they are not sure that if a dispute arises between them and the government, that, you know, there are stories, I don't know if we have time. No commercial breaks. So, an investor comes to Kenya, and before they put their mradi here, everybody from the local chief to the MCA to the president is saying, "Bi usiponipea shares."
They want something.
I mean,
it's essentially how almost every project works.
So the message here from Edwin Sifuna is, I want to be part.
Actually, that is sad. Very sad. Sometimes some of those projects that these investors maybe will interest to come and put forth are things that actually benefit us, not even if it benefits us more than them. But our leaders, the ones to whom we've delegated the responsibility to protect us, scares these people and scares any potential investor who should come and change our lives by making unrealistic demands on bribes and among other policies that makes it so difficult for them to come along and actually make their investment within. We need to change.
Of those that create a government that recognizes the preamble of the Constitution. The preamble of the Constitution is the very beginning of our Constitution.
Yes.
You can go and look at the Constitution of Kenya. It has those...
It gives you the reasons.
Those loyally words.
Not loyally words. This is actually a summary of the reasons why we chose this one.
It's the heart of the Constitution.
Yes, it is the reason. Yeah.
Acknowledges the supremacy of the Almighty God, honoring those who heroically struggle to bring freedom and justice to our land.
Correct.
Proud of our ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity, and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation. Respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of future generations. Committed to nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation. And this is Sisindio Sifuna's main one.
Correct.
Recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. And you say the sequencing of these words is deliberate by the drafters of the Constitution.
Correct.
And it stands for something. I wonder, how do you get this?
Now,
how do you deliver this to us?
Now, those people who ask us, this is the entire manifesto of the Linda Mwananchi Group. This is the manifesto we will give to the people of Kenya in 2027. That it is possible, by the way, Latif, to live a life that captures all these aspirations, because there's a history to it. There was a time, I've given you stories here. There was a time when none of these things were possible. Even just sitting here and having this conversation, it was not possible. So you will see at the end there, it says, exercising our sovereign and inalienable right to determine the form of governance of our country, and having participated fully in the making of this constitution, we adopt, enact, and give this constitution to ourselves and to our future generations. These words are profound. They mean something. So let us discuss the software of the country. One of the things that we must accept as leaders, you must accept that you also have blind spots. But, Mariam, you know, when somebody says, Sifuna, sit here and give me economic policy, first of all, I'm not an economist, and I must accept that I don't know everything. There are these know-it-all leaders who is farmer number one, Sijui is the expert on Sijui, ICT expert, Sijui Nini. That is not who we are. We have to recognize that we don't have everything with us. But we have a country where this expertise exists. I was driving on a road from Mbita.
Homa Bay.
Yes, in Homa Bay. You know, I took my family for the Christmas break, not the Christmas, the New Year's Eve, in some fishing village there in Homa Bay. And you drive along that thing they call the Lake Victoria Ring Road.
Oh, no.
The Lake Victoria Ring Road.
Okay.
Beautiful views. I dare anyone who has traveled anywhere else to tell us if they've seen something more beautiful than that road, the views on that road. But the road is terrible. Then I remembered, I visited a city in South Africa called, it's called what? East London. Now, East London is also a coastal city. There is a proper boardwalk there, where people come with their families and they chill on Sundays, they do roasts and other things. That thing was designed and built by a Kenyan from Bungoma. So we are telling you, but the problem...
You mean Wafula was out, South Africans outsourced Wafula from Kenya, yet we have problems here at home that Wafula is unable to solve because of our broken systems. If Sifuna can actually make that to be his message, coil it in a way that it speaks to me and the Gen Zs.
So we are telling you, but the problem with Wafula is that he doesn't believe that there's a system of meritocracy in Kenya that would actually give him the opportunity to do these things. He has to go to build these things in South Africa. When you have a government that is based on these values, everybody gets the comfort that they can come and render their expertise. We reintroduce a system of meritocracy. I can admit as president that I don't know how to build boardwalks, but there are Kenyans who are able to build those things. So we have to be able to harness all the talent that we have in the country. But to do that, you have to give them confidence that there's a country that works for them.
Talking about that, just to add on before I just let it continue, is that some of the policies that we're having locally here has resulted to brain drain of our own country. That the best talent, the best minds seem to find refuge elsewhere because the systems elsewhere favors them more than locally, where they could have even wanted to invest that resource, because that intellectual resource is rare. We can see the US, that you become best in, you go there to do your studies, that you become best in math and science, they give you direct citizenship. If you actually for the projects, for the green card project that actually they're doing here, is actually to outsource the best, to try to find the best anywhere else on this earth, on this planet, so that those people can go there and do those jobs for them. Then how do you compete in the global market? If you are draining your best energy, they always find it easy. Our nurses are leaving. Our architects are leaving. Wafula is now in South Africa, making strides in South Africa. And there's another one, I don't know, Tieno, who is in Seattle, who did the planning, the urban planning there. Among others, it is out of the kind of probably poor structures that we are having that resulted in Obama becoming the head of state in the United States. He could have been the head of state here. So that's our blood here. But that cook in the British Army thought that it is better for them to go and serve the other side. Anyway, it's up to you. But anyway, if Sifuna is coiling his message around that, on how to make my intellectual structure have meaning here at home,
That's a tall ask from the citizens and from ourselves, like leaders, journalists, everyone. But let me just go into a few things before we even go into the machinations of exactly how to do that. The question on believing in or swearing in Oburu while, not, I don't know, either fully believing him as, party leader, or what was happening there?
As Secretary General of the party.
Yeah.
First of all, I was presiding over the meeting of the National Governing Council.
Okay.
That's not to say I was the one swearing him in.
Okay.
Now, the story of how Oburu becomes a party leader is a very emotive story for me, because Mariam, nobody prepared us as a party, as a country, as supporters of ODM for the death of Raila. This guy, he used to walk around like he was immortal. And the thought never crosses your mind. Right. Then I wake up one morning and there's a message on my phone, Amolo has left us. And I remember I was dressed in orange because we had an activation for a by-election in Kajiado. So we divert the convoy, we go to Mama's house. Yeah? And there, whatever happens. And we find ourselves in State House because the announcement has to be made by the head of state. By the way, I was very angry even just that morning, because I didn't understand why it had to be the head of state to make that announcement. Because we sat in that house from, I think, the time that I arrived, waiting for Oburu, because he was in Kisumu. My understanding was that he, as the head of the Jaramogi family, would arrive and make that statement. But then, state protocol takes over and we all are told to go to State House. I was just wondering, like, why, And at State House, they say, because at the house, the Raila's lawyer.
I think for me, I don't see any fault play by maybe the president being proactive and coming forth to pronounce that Baba has left. I think the person at the stature or the caliber of Raila Amolo Odinga ni mtu ako tumemrank, so somebody at the top job angedo to your job, na so kama Ruto alifanya, mimi kama kulikuwa na issue. So I think hata ningekuwa really concerned kama anybody else, hata kama ni party ingekuwa ndiye natangaza hiyo kitu, mimi ningefeel ni kama hawajampatia heshima.
Had told us his will that he wanted to be buried within 72 hours.
Yeah.
And then I said, I was tell, we need a delegation to go to Mumbai and come back with Mzee's body. And I wasn't even on that list, by the way. But I think one of those CSs who came from ODM noticed that the list was very government heavy. It's like, but Sifuna is here. Let a passport yako patia sijui nani. That's how I find myself on the flight to Mumbai.
Okay.
Yeah. So we go to Mumbai, and actually it was one of the most difficult moments in my life. And that image can never leave my head, because, we found Mzee's body on the air side. They had already transferred him from where he was. Yeah. And now the body was in the back of a truck, a canter, just waiting to be wrapped with that paper that they wrap it with, so that they could put it on the plane. So the indignity, man, like you can't believe this is Baba. So while we are going through all these emotions, people are meeting somewhere to feel his position. Can you imagine that? Mzee had not even...
I think I still continue to hold my position on this matter, that a big party with the national networks like ODM should demonstrate to the public that it respects structures. Because if at all you are unable to express fidelity to your internal constitution, then what about the constitution of the land? Hapo kidogo. They could have given that thing to the deputy party leader, and that was not negotiable. if that's what the constitution says. And if you are, even during this time that Baba actually has been unwell and sometimes is, even when he leaves the country, the deputy should take over tentatively until when he comes back. We saw that with the when Uhuru Kenyatta went for the Hague. Whoever remains behind here tentatively. Just that when Uhuru went to the Hague, that was actually a different scenario a little bit, because we were talking about the presidency, and now we had to seem like we have a president internally. But when the president is not within the country, the deputy president is normally on guard to make any decision except those that are out of their mandate, just as the party leader. That's why you are a deputy. So now, where do you get you? So your Uburu, me, I don't know. I don't know how the Uburu is coming in. But anyway, any other person actually who might understand this thing better, you can explain to some of us who are a little slow of understanding. Because where is Uburu coming in, by the way?
When arrived in Kenyan airspace.
Yeah.
And they're already doing that. I wasn't present in that meeting. If I was present in that meeting, I would have told them that the constitution of ODM, which I brought a copy of, I walk around with it everywhere, so that when clever journalists like Latvia want to challenge me on provisions of the ODM constitution, I can show them. It requires that you elect a party leader at a national delegates convention. Now, Raila had 3 deputies. And you see, some of these people, I have asked Ososi, do you people understand what the word deputy means? Like, when you offer yourself for that position, you should be prepared to be able to act in that position in the event that your boss is unavailable.
That's true.
So my expectation would have been that the 3 of them would have said, let Ososi act for the month of January, you act for the month of February, then you act.
I think people like Kina Osotsi really either they didn't understand what being a deputy is, or they just didn't want to cause a lot of mayhem. Joho was also a party leader, a deputy party leader, but for him, I believe he had already seeded the grounds, because serving in Ruto's administration, definitely you have to resign from positions of the party, if that was to be followed religiously, and all your appearance should just be ceremonial. Maybe lawyers can dispute that in case I'm getting off, but you are a deputy party leader for ODM, serving in Ruto's regime, yet there is no pact. You represented a different ideology. I think you ought to have resigned here to be here. And that's actually what makes him a little bit ineligible for position of the deputy party leader, and the perception has it that way. But for the case of Osotsi and for Osotsi per se, for him, I don't know why he did not protest. Maybe he's just peace-loving person. But if he's peace-loving person, why is he protesting now? I don't know. Maybe he could have protested and save us all this energy.
That position, you should be prepared to be able to act in that position in the event that your boss is unavailable. That's true. So my expectation would have been that the 3 of them would have said, let Ososi act for the month of January, you act for the month of February, then you act for the month of March, and in March we call an NDC. Now, there is a way in which the emotional blackmail on members of the Central Committee, on members of the National Executive Committee works. That now we are brought back, and all of them, we just told, okay, let's just go along. We need at least in these moments of grief some level of stability and leadership, and he's an old man. And the initial pronouncements by Uhuru were very encouraging. If you go back to the things that he was saying in the initial days,
By the way, Sifuna is saying the truth. Initial pronouncement by Oburu are resonating very, very well with the narrative that ODM has always stood for. And we didn't expect at some point he will come and say, if you're not with us, go do your thing, as we also do our thing. Even if now you come to save that, after doing that to the youthfuls of that party, then you start mentioning things like Weka Mawe and Mbwekse. Still now, you've caused a lot of damage that be the bigger person. Reach out to these boys. Ask them what's the issue. But anyway, I also understand that the issue cannot be solved because the issue is one time.
For the month of March, and in March we call an NDC.
Yeah.
Now, there is a way in which the emotional blackmail on members of the Central Committee, on members of what is it called, the National Executive Committee works, that now we are brought back and all of them, you know, we just told, okay, let's just go along, you know, we need, at least in these moments of grief, some level of stability, and leadership, and, you know, he's an old man. And the initial pronouncements by Oburu were very encouraging. If you go back to the things that he was saying in the initial days, saying, oh, you know, this thing has just fallen on my lap, my job is just to steer the party through this difficult period and hand over the party to young people. His own words. He said it himself.
That's true.
He said it himself. So you must understand everything that happened in the context of that, that there was a very solid drive to be able to not unnecessarily stir the waters and to be able to allow time for us to be able to do these things. That does not mean that the constitutional responsibility to be elected at an NDC is ousted. And the reason why we were insisting on doing things properly, you know, one of the things why the Central Committee of ODM...
I want to compare this to what Gladys Wanga said. Gladys Wanga mentioned something in the Siaya rally that Sifuna respected Baba, but he expresses disdain for Oburu. And now I think I understand why. Because if you as a legitimate SG have to take instruction from an illegitimate, quotes in quotes, I'm not saying it's legitimate, please tafadhali. If you have to, then the illegitimate one might be having a lot of work to do to actually prove their legitimacy. And the question of legitimacy has come up even in other matters, not only on ODM. And we also understand the reasons why Uhuru Kenyatta went and looked for Raila, because of the issue of legitimacy. Yes, you won the election. Half of the country is protesting. Where is your legitimacy? So, Oburu, maybe you could tone down and maybe postpone, do your thing to after you got the legitimacy.
Oburu, then it worries us. And we're saying, hey, boss, see, you go then get the legitimacy from members of the party. So then you can be able to make some of those critical decisions that you're making.
Just jumping in because before we take a break. So the leadership of the party meets and says, let's appoint Oburu as interim party leader.
Correct.
And because that was the communication.
Yes.
I remember Abdulsamad reading that at the airport and saying interim party leader.
Correct.
And the messaging from the interim party leader was, I'm a caretaker here for this. And then again, you met at the point now where you were chairing that meeting that endorsed that decision.
Yeah.
So, and that's when now he came in and took in the oath and said, I will be.
Yeah, but you see the constitution of ODM, even I went through a similar process, that you are an interim official until elected by the National Delegates Convention. I was appointed in an interim position in 2018. It was not until 2021 when we went to the NDC that I was elected unopposed and unanimously as SG of ODM, you know? So these things, it is when we say, please do the right thing, it's not to say we want to remove you as party leader.
Okay.
You see, and
Just
the question you have asked is very interesting. When did he transform from interim to wakudumu wa milele?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Has he?
According to him. But according to the constitution of ODM, the only time you become substantive is when you are elected at the NDC.
But as the custodian of, you know, the party's ideal, the Secretary General, right?
Yeah.
You know what the party constitution says.
Yes.
You were there, you chaired that meeting that endorsed him as interim. And therefore, you know this is the position. He is interim until an NDC is held.
Correct.
As far as I remember, there were conversations around when the NDC is going to be held.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There was no argument that it's going to be an NDC or not. So at what point did Edwin Sifuna, as Secretary General, start feeling like the interim party leader does not want an NDC that will elect him? Or start feeling that this one is usurping the powers of a substantive party leader? What made you feel that?
Now, first of all, our calls for clothing the party leader in legitimacy were misinterpreted as disrespect.
Okay.
You know, young people know exactly what I am saying. You know, these conversations we have with our grandfathers, they are very interesting. You say something and they think, oh, you, first of all, you are a child, sit down, you should not be saying those things. It is not disrespect.
You want to inherit me when I'm alive.
You need to guide people. You need to guide. In my position as SG, I should be able to offer free advice on my understanding of things. It is not to say that it is disrespectful. Number two, if you look at the gravity of the decisions that are being taken, my view is that some of those decisions can only be taken when you are clothed with that legitimacy. For instance, you want to tell members of ODM that you are beginning negotiations to form a coalition government with Party X. That is...
I think now I understand. Oburu Odinga in his interim capacity, I think he could have been patient. And for him to actually even show a lot of responsibility and to show that he's the bigger person in this particular party and he understands the gravity of those particular matters, he could have avoided those questions totally, whether it is asked by the journalists or whether it is asked internally by his people. So that, because if at all you have to talk about committing the party fully, and you can go ahead and say that we don't want this seat, we want this, and we want that. I think those are conversations that I would agree with Edwin Sifuna that a legitimate party leader could have brought them up. Then at that particular point, then Sifuna and the team who do not agree with that totally, then could have resigned, in my view. But because it has been brought by an illegitimate party leader who do not have full mandate, then there's no reason for Sifuna and the team to resign. They still can protest.
Something that requires a mandate of the people. And that's what we are saying. There is no rush. Let's do things by the book and then you can be able to have the mandate and say, now I'm going. The reason why Raila used to do those things the way he used to do them is because he always went back to the people. Even doing something as innocuous as signing an MOU. Baba went around the country. Just, you know, sometimes we in ODM, there are things that we know. Sometimes Baba would want something. We know what he wants. Sindio? But at least he used to pretend to console.
At least he used to pretend. And I think that is leadership. And you also have to have some conventional wisdom that should guide you to know when to pretend and when to, because when you're dealing with people, these are not goats. Dealing with people, just know how to wisely toil around and eventually get what you want with them. When you come heads on, then you start meeting your fate like this, like what Oburu is now going through. Anyway, me I say that is legitimate and staki story mob. Wase mi sina maneno. Oburu ako legitimate, watu wenye na believe yeye ako yeye ndio party leader, ni sawa. Watu wenye wa believe pia ni sawa. Mimi pia kuna tu vitu zenye na believe. Ni venye mimi naona tu labda party leader ndiye angepewa kwa deputy. Hivyo ndio venye mimi naona. Lakini kenye mimi naona imata. Si Gladys amesema sijui vitu zenye amesema huko na kila mtu anasema vitu zenye anasema. Iko tu sawa. Oburu Weka mawe.
Just even if it's just for sure. Like yes, you know, like I remember he came back from the first 3 consultations he did. Yeah. He did, I think, Mombasa, then he did Kwale, then he did, I think it was Kilifi. Yeah. You know, he came back, he told us, but there's Sifuna. Yeah. Of all these meetings, the only people, he said the only people who were genuinely giving me proper advice, not the proper advice, but saying what they truly feel about this thing, were the people in Kwale. I can tell when people want to please me, there are people who don't want to offend me, there are people who are just saying, you know, he used to be able to tell. But he used to do it. He used to do it. He said, come here, Nini. And I mean, one of the things that people will come to understand is that, you see, when the party leader, Raila, because of the legitimacy he had and the support of the people and the heart of the people that he had, everything we used to do in ODM, including our rules, our constitution, was in order to facilitate him to be able to achieve what he wants to achieve. Now, we have to ask ourselves if any other leader in ODM has that level of legitimacy. Correct. Even Sifuna. I mean, you have to have the heart of the people before they can trust you and say, Sifuna it looks suspicious, but we trust Sifuna knows what he's doing.
It's a democracy and should be following the democratic processes in your constitution as well. We'll go on a short break, but when we come back, we'll also talk about the charges, or what we want to call them, against you, that were preferred against you as far as issues party related. Do they hold any water? Are they substantive? Court case still ongoing, but we'll try and do our best to cover it. Hashtag is Fixing the Nation NTV. We'll be right back after this.
Every day begins with decisions, and empowered teams make better ones. When information is easy to access, you stay ahead of developing trends. We unpack the business environment shaping Kenya and the region. We follow the money so you understand opportunity, risk, and impact. Daily Nation delivers trusted, real-time reporting as events unfold. Business Daily gives leaders the insight to plan, not just react. See East Africa as one connected economy. Subscribe to Nation e-paper. Empower your team. Inform smart decisions.
Professionals that attain world-class skills in nursing, counseling, and physiotherapy, community health, clinical medicine, and medical laboratory, imaging science, human nutrition, and dietetics. Join us today and become a professional. Thika School of Medical and Health Sciences, nurturing professional excellence.
Welcome to the final hour of Fixing the Nation. We're live on NTV, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. Msini chape, tunaendelea na conversation. Let's just do one news fix for the hour. Now, ex-Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero and 10 others are in a graft case that is entering day 2 of the defense stage. The corruption case against former Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero and 10 others moves into the second day of the defense phase, making a critical turn in the long-running trial. The charges stem from alleged procurement irregularities, with prosecutors accusing county officials of flouting public finance and tendering laws during Kidero's tenure. Now, at the defense hearing stage, the accused will seek to counter the prosecution's case, testing the strength of evidence presented over the years. The proceedings are closely watched as they speak to accountability in county governments and the pace of high-profile anti-corruption trials in Kenya. Further, the outcome of the case is likely to be viewed through the lens of political affiliation, given Kidero is now a member of UDA. This is the second news fix on former governors being indicted for graft issues.
Yep.
Again, if we actually see this through towards the end, it sets a great precedent.
We shall never give up hope. One day, things will go right.
Right.
Bro, Omwami Sifuna knows this thing. This man is a true future, as Professor Ichung'wah once said. Keep that brain fired up, Omwami. That is Lagos Steve. Frederick Omondi says, we can pay for the show so we don't have many breaks here. I'm Jatuma Bado. We can't tell the boss, well, it's Watatuma. Still Mike the one says, this is Sifuna Nation. The Pioneer says, we as Gen Z, it's either our parents choose.
I think at this particular point, Edwin Sifuna now is, I don't know why, but he's now losing me somehow. Because, you see, at points of high national leadership levels, the way you speak as the leader determines a lot of things. So you become inseparable, the individual you, to the members of the public, and the individual you. The individual you and the leader you become inseparable. Because if at all you want to extend that maybe through humor on maybe the relationship you're having with your daughter, that's a different thing. To him, to her, you are a father. To your wife, you are a husband. But now, for some of us who are seeing you, like even the issues of senator, I don't even see where they feature so much. We've identified with you as the Secretary General. So each and every time you speak, and Baba also affirmed that every time you speak on behalf of the party. So an example that I was giving to a colleague and a friend some time back is that Barack Obama once said, before he just left office, and Trump had been elected as has been elected as the president-elect at that particular time, not yet sworn. He came forth and said, there's a difference of Trump tweeting as Trump, and then now Trump tweeting as the head of states. What that means is that when Trump speaks or tweets as the president, it speaks something to the corporate world. It speaks something to the stock markets. It speaks something to the investors. It speaks something to the allies. It sends signals to the adversaries. That's now not Trump as a person. The same analogy applies in leadership everywhere else. If I was a leader of an institution, if I speak out there, or any of my conduct vibrates the same way. So in this particular case, I think I would fault Sifuna for him trying to use that one as an excuse. I don't think that adds up. Even the issues of senator, I don't even see where they feature so much. We've identified with you as the Secretary General. So each and every time you speak, And Baba also affirmed that every time you speak on behalf of the party. So an example that I was giving to a colleague and a friend some time back is that Barack Obama once said, before he just left office, and Trump had been elected as has been elected as the president-elect at that particular time, not yet sworn. He came forth and said, there's a difference of Trump tweeting as Trump, and then now Trump tweeting as the head of states. What that means is that when Trump speaks or tweets as the president, it speaks something to the corporate world. It speaks something to the stock markets. It speaks something to the investors. It speaks something to the allies. It sends signals to the adversaries. That's now not Trump as a person. The same analogy applies in leadership everywhere else. If I was a leader of an institution, if I speak out there, or any of my conduct vibrates the same way. So in this particular case, I think I would fault Sifuna for him trying to use that one as an excuse. I don't think that adds up.